You can be what you wanna be. Be what you wanna be. You just be what you wanna be with me.
Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of Happy AF. So I'm sambowker, but you know that because you tune in every week and you hang out with me. So I'm just going to tag a few people whilst we're just getting ready here. And whilst we're here, anyone that's here listening, like, I don't know, why don't you share with me, what did you have for breakfast this morning? Or what's your favorite morning drink? I'm just going to see if I can tag a few people. I just learnt this new technology. I'm a bit proud of myself. Always learning new things. Oh, hang on a sec. That's not what I wanted to do. All right, so how do we do the @ symbol? Shift. Oh, there we go. All right. So let's see if we can just bring a few people in. So tell me, what is your favorite breakfast cereal? Come on, walk us through it. Or favorite breakfast food, not a favorite breakfast cereal. Favorite breakfast food or favorite morning drink. Have you got one? Have you got a favorite anything in the morning? Come on, why don't you share? Tell me what's going on. Tell me what happens in your world when you wake up in the morning. Do you exercise? Do you, I don't know, what's your morning routine? Walk me through it. I'd love to know. I'd love to know, what is your morning routine? What do you do when you wake up? Anyway, look, for me, I just thought I would jump in and share because my morning routine has varied over the years, and I have to say I used to have a story that I was just totally not a morning person. I don't know if anyone can relate with that. I don't know if you've ever caught yourself saying, I'm not a morning person, I'm more of a night owl. And I definitely have told myself that story all my life, and it's been true. Like, there's no doubt. I think that I naturally stayed up late and I naturally liked sleeping, you know, in the morning. But I have to tell you, it didn't really serve me. It served me when it did until it didn't. Now, I know that sounds a bit crazy, but the reason I want to share that with you is that that rule that I had created for myself, right, around I'm not a morning person, served me in being able to sleep in, served me in being able to stay up late, gave me a reason for, you know, not waking up early. Like, it was a whole bunch of things added together that I knitted together that created my identity as a night owl, right? And the reason I'm sharing this with you is that everything that we do, okay, everything that we say becomes a story that we then identify with. It becomes a belief system. Now, you'll hear me talk a lot about belief systems, right? And I love that, you know, belief system is BS, right? Belief system, but it also can be total bullshit, right? It can serve you or it doesn't, right? So you've got to decide in life with anything that you want to experience, right? Is the set of beliefs that you have created, and by the way, yes, you did create them. You created them a long time ago based on a whole bunch of information that was fed to you. Is that belief that you currently have about a particular situation, is it serving you to live the version of yourself, to live your life fully expressed? Because if it is, then, hey, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what your story is. It could be completely batshit crazy. But the reality is, if it's serving you, then who cares what anyone else thinks? It's when you have a belief system, right, that is not serving you to be the version of yourself that you want to be. And for me, I really realized some time ago that if I didn't start getting up early in the morning, right, I was never going to be able to achieve the things that I wanted to achieve, right? I was never going to get things done. And, you know, I used to always think before I had a child, like, I'm so busy, I don't have time, you know, oh my God, like, yeah, I'm busy, right? And I tell you, tell someone who has a child what busy is like versus someone who doesn't have a child. I don't even know what busy looked like until I had a child. Now I have a kid who needs a PA as well as myself. So it's a really interesting thing, but it all comes down to your frame of reference and where you're actually at. So a long time ago, I decided that, you know, I had been following lots of, like, you know, movers and shakers and super inspirational people and people that were really successful, and they all got up really early in the morning. And it was funny because it used to kind of be like, 6 a.m. and then it became the 5 a.m. club and then it became the 4 a.m. club. And now you got some crazy motherfuckers that are getting up at 3 a.m. And listen, then they talk about that being the spiritual hour and that being where you're divinely guided and blah, 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 blah. It's not natural for me to wake up at 20 past 4 in the morning. However, if I do that, then I get to go and train. By the time 5:30 is over, like the bit of my day which I least like, which is the exercise part, is completely done and everything feels like it's easy from there on. Okay, so I'm asking the question today, how do you experience happiness? Like, what are your rules that you have in place so that you experience happiness? And I think that's a really interesting question to think about because, when I talk about rules, we all have a set of rules. They're not necessarily conscious. In fact, they're not conscious, not to start with anyway. But once you understand that you have an unconscious set of rules for how you experience happy, sad, angry, mad, joy, shame, all of these experiences, once you understand that you actually have a set of rules that you have created that allow you to experience each of those emotions, that empowers you to then make a decision with how you want to feel. How do you want to, what do you want to experience more of? So just hang in with me, okay? I know this might sound a little bit like out there for those of you that haven't heard this spoken about in this way. People might be like, come on, Sam, surely you can't experience what you want when you want. Surely you just feel things and it's not in your control. And to some degree, that's true, right? Our feelings will lie to us, but our feelings will come along and they will come along based on a set of filters, okay? A set of past experiences that we have then made mean something. So if you want to experience more joy, right? So let's just use a really simple one right now. Let's just joy and happiness. Now, some people think they're different, whatever. For the purpose of this exercise, let's just assume joy and happiness are the same feeling, the same emotion, right? Now, if I have a set of rules that says I will experience joy anytime I finish a training session, anytime I meet someone new, anytime I have a cup of coffee, anytime I have a nice deep breath. If I have a set of rules that say that, then I'm making it very easy for myself to experience happiness and joy. Right? And I have a list. I mean, for me to experience happiness and joy, it's like, honestly, it's unlimited. I could sit here and I could just tell you again and again. When someone lets me in the traffic, I experience happiness. When my daughter smiles at me, I experience happiness. When I get a cuddle, I experience happiness. When my dog comes and gives me a snuggle, I experience happiness. So for me, I have a whole heap of rules in place so that it's very easy for me to experience happiness, right? Let's talk about anxiety. Now, that's a huge one, right? How do you experience anxiety? Well, in the past, I would experience anxiety anytime I was in a large group of people, anytime I had to speak, anytime I got asked a question, anytime I had to sit in front of a camera. Like, I had a list a mile long of all of the times that I would experience anxiety. And so it was really easy for me to feel anxious. It was really easy for me to feel nervous. And that didn't serve me in where I wanted to go in life. So I needed to interrupt that pattern because it's just a pattern, right? It's just a pattern that we're doing. I needed to interrupt that pattern and say, okay, I don't want to experience anxiety all of those times. So maybe I'm going to make up a different story. Maybe I'm going to tell myself that anxiety, well, that feeling I get in my stomach actually is similar to excitement, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to anchor in a feeling, okay? I'm going to anchor in a feeling of excitement that I love, okay? And I'm going to think of it. So I'm going to go, okay, what is something that gets me really excited? Snowboarding, right? Snowboarding is the thing that gets me so excited. I can see myself flying down the hill, the adrenaline, my stomach's like, woo, I'm like so excited. I'm like, yes, this is amazing. This is awesome. I can see it. I can feel it. I can taste it. I can touch it. It's right there. Okay. So I've got the feeling. I know what that feels like, right? And I might close my eyes and I breathe inside and go, okay, I understand now. I've got this anchored in feeling and experience of excitement, adrenaline, and something that I love doing. Then anytime I go into an environment where I might feel anxious, like for instance, talking to a camera, going into a group of people that I don't know, going to a conference, what I'm going to do in that moment is when I start to feel that feeling of anxiety, and anyone that's had anxiety knows, it might be the heart is pumping, it might be, a bit funny in the stomach, might be sweaty palms, might be any of these things. So however you do anxiety, just fill in the blank. And what's going to happen for me is anytime I put myself in that situation, I'm actually going to anchor back in that thought of the excitement. Now, I learned how to do anchoring a long time ago. With Mel Robbins, she anchored it in with a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you haven't heard of Mel Robbins, she's super cool. I love her. She's got the 5-second rule, and it really makes a lot of sense because you've got about 5 seconds with which to override your brain and change that pattern and make it into something else. 5 seconds before your brain goes, oh, hell no, I don't want to do that. So what happens is I'll go into an environment, I'll feel the anxiety, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'll immediately think of that exciting experience that I loved. And then instead of feeling anxious, I'm now feeling excited, and I'm now in that environment because I've created a new rule, right? I've created a rule that when I'm in those environments, I'm actually going to anchor in a positive thought. I'm going to anchor it to something that's really easy for me to remember. So I want you to think about, how do you experience your emotions, right? What is a predominant emotion that you experience that maybe is, for want of a better word, negative? Okay, or something that you don't want to experience. Think of what that experience is, think of what that emotion is, and then think, how would you rather feel? So would you rather feel anxious or excited? Would you rather feel happy or sad? Would you rather feel, angry or inspired, and motivated? So sit back and look at how you can change it, and then ask yourself, what rules would you need to create so that you can then experience that on an ongoing basis? Now, look, I'm someone that most of my friends would say is a pretty happy person, okay? And I think now people would assume that it was always that way. And it really wasn't. I wasn't always a super happy person. In fact, when I was younger, I was pretty negative. Certainly, I guess between maybe 12 to 17, I was pretty, I don't know, I was like that sulky, sullen teenager, right? And if any of you have got teenagers, and you're going through that right now, you know what I'm talking about, the eye rolling and the, that was me. And I really felt like, everything was like, I was a real victim to my circumstance. I was like, everything was not good enough. I was judgmental. I was critical. I always saw the downside of things. I didn't see that the cup was half full. And it's really interesting now because now I can't even imagine that version of myself, but I created this version that sits here today, right? This version, Sambowker, HappyU headquarters, Sammy B, she did not exist. I created her, right? I built her from the ground up. I decided who I wanted to be by looking at people that I was inspired by. And I've been doing it all my life. It's called modeling. I promise you, whatever you want in this world, whether it is to be happier, to have more financial abundance, to experience more joy, to be fitter, to be more motivated, to be smarter, whatever it is that you are seeking, someone has done it before you, right? Now, you can do it by yourself. You can be like my 10-year-old and you can be like, no, I don't need help. I don't want help. I want to do it all by myself. Sure, go ahead. It'll take you twice as long. Or you could say to yourself, you know what? I know what I want. I don't know how I'm going to get there. But you know what? There is somebody who has already done it. There is somebody out there who probably has actually got less resources, less education, less time, and has managed to achieve it. So you know what? I'm going to go on fast track. Like, why would I do things the hard way? Why not copy someone who's already done it, fast track that, and then go and learn something new? And so that's something that I've been doing since I was, I don't know, like I want to say probably earlier than 23, but I really kind of started nailing it at 23. 15 was probably when I went to my first seminar and I saw these people speak on stage. It was Tom Hopkins. Back then I was into sales. And, Tom Hopkins was like, so tell me what you want. Tell me what you like about what you've got. And what would you like to change? And I can hear his voice in my head like it was yesterday. He had this American twang, and it was very, now that I know a bit about public speaking, I can see what he was doing. Like he was changing his tone. He was changing his pitch. But right all the way back then, I knew that I wanted to speak. I felt so inspired by this guy, and I wanted to inspire people. I wanted to go out there and mentor people. I wanted to be just like him, and so I kind of followed that, and I followed that path. Now, here's the little caveat of this, right? When you start doing that, when you start leaning in and modeling people, don't get caught in the comparison trap, because I fell into the comparison trap for a while there. And truth be told, I go back there. It's a place, that comparisonitis, I visit there from time to time, right? Because I'm human, and I measure myself against other people. But I have to tell you, I'm getting way better at going, hey, that's not, I can't compare to that. Okay, I can measure where I was yesterday, and I can measure where I was last week, but I can never compare myself to that person, because they're always going to be a better version of themselves than me. But I can use their skills to model and become better at what I want to get, what I want to become better at. So I want to go back to, like, what rules do you have to experience the feelings that you want to experience in your life? So I want you to do a quick assessment, and I want you to look at where you're at right now. Are you a typically happy person? Are you a typically sad person? Are you a typically motivated person? Do you find yourself low in energy, or are you high? Do you find yourself someone who sticks with the things that you start, or do you find yourself procrastinating and potentially like not even starting because you're like, if I can't get it perfect, I'm not even going to bother trying? Because that perfection trap, that's something else. That's another one that I got stuck in for a long time. And I used to wear the perfection as a badge of honor. Perhaps you can relate. Back then, I didn't realize that that perfection was actually the birthplace of anxiety. And it stopped me from starting anything, because I was like, no, if it can't be perfect, I'm not going to put it out there. And I used to be really proud of that. But I didn't realize that that was actually a rule that I had created that stopped me from achieving anything great, because perfection doesn't exist. Perfection is a place that you get to visit. It's like a holiday, and you go along this journey and you have moments of perfection, but you can't stay there. It's not sustainable. It is impossible to sustain it. So if your benchmark is perfection, if that's what you're always aiming for, sure, aim for perfection, but be satisfied with wherever you land. Always aim to do your best. And so the rules that you create for yourself with everything that you do are going to determine where you end up in this world. So I want you to really have a think today. If you are experiencing emotions that you don't want to experience often, like anxiety or depression or sadness, what rules have you got in place to experience those? Because I guarantee you've made it very easy to experience anger, sadness, depression, anxiety, and you've made it very hard to experience confidence, happiness, and joy. So just stick with me for a second, okay? I know if this is a new concept to you, you're going to still think this is a bit crazy, but I want you to sit down and I want you to make a list, right? Make a list of the emotions that you experience most in any given day. Do you find yourself doing happy? Do you find yourself doing anxious? Do you find yourself doing anger? So write down your predominant emotions that you would experience on any given day. And everybody does this, right? So it's not like you have to be flatline. Most people are not. Some people are super high, then super low, then in between, and everything else in between. So just write down your baseline emotions, the ones that you experience most. And if it changes every single day, then just write down today. What are the emotions you experience most today? Now, once you've done that, I want you to sit down and have a look at what were the rules that had to happen for you to experience that. Now, I know I'm using the word rules, okay? It's an unconscious pattern, but I want you to bring it into your consciousness, because if you're just on autopilot, you don't even know what is happening to cause you to experience that feeling. So first you have to take the unconscious and you have to bring it into your conscious awareness. Once it's conscious, then what you can do is you can go, okay, well, I can see how easy it is for me to experience sadness. Gosh, I only have to experience sadness if no one rings me or no one texts me or no one likes one of my comments on Facebook, or I only have to experience sadness, if I hear a sad thing on the television or if I hear a sad story on the news or blah, 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 blah. You'll find you've written this huge, big list. And then you'll be like, all right, I will experience happiness when 3 people call me. I will experience happiness and when it's sunny. I will experience happiness when there is no traffic. And you'll find that all of the things that you need to experience the emotion that you want are probably out of your control. Just try this, okay? I promise you, if you go and write down these things, once you've then got that. So step 1, write down the emotions that you experience most just today. Write down the emotions that you experience most today. Then write a set of rules. How did you experience those emotions? What had to happen for you to experience that emotion? And then what would you like to experience more of? Once you know what you want to experience more of, whether it's happiness, whether it's motivation, whatever it is, then how can you make a set of rules so that it's really easy for you to experience that? Okay? So, like I said, for me to experience happiness, I can give you a list of 100 things that will cause me to feel happy. I can see my dog. I can see my daughter, right? I can help a client. I can let someone in the traffic. I can compliment someone. I can talk to a stranger. I can smile. A million things. I could just keep going. I make stuff up, right? Because I like to feel happy. So I want you to sit down and write these things down, okay? This is a really simple thing you can do. And then the emotion that you're experiencing that you don't want to experience, I want you to now make a set of rules that make it hard to experience that. So instead of, I feel sad every time blah, 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 blah happens, I want you to feel, well, I will only feel sad when it's raining cats and dogs and my car gets dinted with hail. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous, but make it that crazy. Make it that big. Make it that silly, okay? And you will find that if you write a set of rules where it's hard to experience that but easy to experience this, you're going to start experiencing a whole lot more of the things that you want and a whole lot less of the things that you don't want. And then the second step to that is, if you are experiencing, for argument's sake, anxiety, okay? Anxiety is a really easy one to switch over to excitement. So get an anchor thought, something that you love, something that is adrenaline filled, something that excites you, that you really, really enjoy. Get it really clear in your mind. And then anytime you go into an experience where in the past you might have experienced the anxiety, all I want you to do in that moment is I just want you to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Mel Robbins it, 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and start thinking about the exciting anchored emotion. Okay, so there's 2 really easy things you can do. Write yourself a new set of rules and create a positive anchor emotion so that you can switch it out for that unwanted, undesirable emotion, doing something that you want to do. Okay, so I just really, this morning it was funny. Like I found myself, there was so much that I wanted to share with you guys. And I found myself like, going, okay, so I went and did my training session and then I'm not feeling 100%. I was like, okay, I'm going to go and try yoga. And I did it for about 20 minutes. I went, no, there's no downward dogs for me today. My head was kind of like feeling like it was going to explode. And I started just thinking about how even though I'm not feeling 100%, I feel really filled with joy right now. And I sat down and I looked at all of the things that I have in place to experience that, which is why I decided it was time I started sharing with you my rules, because you become so unconscious about the things that you're doing that you almost have to reverse engineer and go, well, how is it that I'm actually doing that now? So I want you guys to go out and try that today. And I want you to share, like, what is that experience like? What were the emotions and what have you had to change it to? All right, guys, I hope you have an amazing day and I will look forward to seeing you next time on another episode of Happy AF. My name's Sam Bowker. See you all later.